and those who are here live. So at this time now, I'm going to ask Jeff Lewis to have our invocation.
Employees and their commitment to serve even through trying times like this. Lord, I lift up our nation as we go into these holidays and into a new year, that you will guide and lead us and that your will be done. Be with us now, Lord, as during the proceedings of this meeting, and guide us through it with love, with conscience, and Father, just make this your meeting. We lift this up in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll have a roll call, if you would, please.
Okay. Congressional District 1, Ms. Purcell. Here. District 2, Mr. Floyd. 3, Mr. Westmoreland. 4, Mr. Brown.
Here.
5, Ms. Key.
Here.
6, Mr. Abel.
Here.
7, Mr. Bowen.
Here.
8, Mr. Golden.
Here.
9, Ms. Dunn. 10, Mr. Boswell.
Here.
11, Mr. Lewis.
Here.
12, Mr. Grantham.
Here.
13, Ms. Lemon.
Here.
And 14, Mr. Sharon.
Here.
At this time, I'll ask for the approval of the minutes from the November board meeting.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? At this time now, I'll ask Albert Shelby to come forward to report on the projects for our January letting.
All right, well, good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, members of the board. I am here to present the projects the department is proposing to advertise in the January 2021 letting. So before we present January, here are the FY 2021 results. We have led a total of 159 projects in FY 2021. This chart shows the number of projects by improvement type. The value of these 159 projects is approximately $513 million through the November 2020 bid awards, with 148 GDOT let projects, approximately worth $499 million, and 11 local let projects worth $14 million. This chart shows the dollar amount distribution by improvement type, with maintenance, bridge, and road projects making up the bulk of these types. Here are the results of the November 2020 letting. Of the 18 GDOT let contracts presented to the board, 18 were awarded. Now I'm going to discuss the projects in the January 2021 letting. We have a total of 45 projects with 43 GDOT and 2 local lets. The next 3 slides list the 29 non-TIA projects arranged by congressional district. So as you can see with this slide, we are letting a variety of projects throughout the state to address bridge capacity, enhancement, maintenance, and safety issues. So the first highlighted project will rehabilitate and widen the existing roadway from Grove Boulevard to just east of the trust plant in the city of Kingsland. State Route 40 will be widened to a 4-lane urban section with a 14-foot two-way left turn lane. 5-foot sidewalks will also be provided on both sides of the road to ensure a pedestrian-friendly facility. The side streets at the intersection of North and South Grove Boulevard will be realigned to improve sight distance, and a traffic signal will be added. The total project length is approximately 1.4 miles. This project will resurface State Route 18 from east of Forsyth Street to in Lamar County to State Route 42 in Monroe County for a distance of 8.4 miles. This section was last repaved in 2009, 11 years ago, and is an excellent example of our continued commitment to maintaining our existing infrastructure. This project is the replacement of the structurally deficient bridge on State Route 59 in Stevens Creek, over Stevens Creek. The bridge was constructed in 1947, 73 years ago. And here's a ground view of that bridge to be replaced. This project consists of the widening and reconstruction of State Route 53 from a 2-lane facility to a 4-lane urban facility with a 20-foot raised median. The project will begin at the Watkinsville bypass, which is also State Route 24 and US 441, and end at Hog Mountain Road. This project is approximately 1.14 miles in length. This is phase 2 of a 3-phase series of projects that will provide a 4-lane connectivity from State Route 316 to US 441 in Oconee County. This project is located just northwest of Watkinsville. This project is a replacement of the structurally deficient bridge on North Peachtree Road over Brewington Creek in Lawrence County. The existing bridge was constructed in 1950, 70 years ago. And here's a ground view of that bridge to be replaced. This highlighted project will resurface State Route 92 from Bay Street to State Route 154 for a distance of 8.7 miles. This section was last repaved in 2009, 11 years ago. This next project is the I-16 Phase 4, which consists of approximately 2.9 miles of capacity and operational improvements to I-16 eastbound from I-75 to Walnut Creek. 2nd Street will also be widened from a 4 to a 6-lane facility, and the 2nd Street overpass bridge will be reconstructed. A 10-foot sidewalk will be added to the east side of the 2nd Street bridge. Eastbound entrance and exit ramps will be added to 2nd Street with this phase of the project. This and the next highlighted project are 2 phases of the 6-phase overall reconstruction of the I-16 to I-75 interchange. Holistically, these projects will provide a smoother transition between I-16 and I-75 and vice versa. And here is that Phase 5 that I just talked about, which consists of approximately 2.7 miles of capacity and operational improvements to I-16 westbound from I-75 to Walnut Creek. The Spring Street loop ramp will be reopened in Phase 5, and the northbound Spring Street left turn lane to I-16 westbound will be eliminated, which will restore Spring Street to its original lane configuration. The new entrance ramp from 2nd Street to I-16 westbound will be added with this phase. So while we're on the subject of I-16 and I-75 interchange, we'll take this opportunity to quickly update you on the construction status of phases 1, 1B, 2, and 3. As you can see from this slide, construction is well underway for phases 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1B has already been completed. Phase 1, as shown in this slide, has an estimated completion date of June of 2021. This phase will provide an I-16 eastbound CD road from I-75 to Spring Street, including detour and / pedestrian bridge over the river, portions of the viaduct bridge, and the eastbound CD bridge over Spring Street. It will also construct a permanent eastbound ramp to Spring Street, widen the I-16 eastbound exit ramp to Coliseum Drive to 2 lanes, and reconfigure the intersection with Coliseum Drive to accommodate dual left and right turn lanes from the exit ramp, and add a left turn lane to I-16 westbound from northbound Spring Street. Phase 1B is already complete. It consisted of mitigation improvements to the Pleasant Hill neighborhood on each side of I-75. Some of the mitigation items included creation of a linear park on the east side of I-75 and green space on the west side of I-75. A 10-foot multi-use trail from First Avenue to Walnut Street, First and Second Avenue pavement rehabilitation, and Heritage Tour streetscape improvements. Phase 2 has a current estimated completion date of March 2022. This phase will provide operational improvements on I-75 northbound from Hardman Avenue to south of the I-16 interchange, construct the Walnut Street and Riverside Drive overpasses, and complete a pedestrian bridge over I-75. Phase 3 also has a current completion date of March of 2022. This phase provides the southbound I-75 operational improvements from Hardman Avenue to the northern limit of the I-16 interchange, and on I-75 northbound through the I-16 interchange. This phase also provides a westbound collector distributor bridge over the river and some of the required new configuration ramps. Now we'll talk about the TIA projects.
Go ahead, yes, Mr. Grantham.
Looking at all these drawings and everything else, it looks like you're spending a whole lot of money.
This one is a big project.
Well, tell us the cost of this total project when you get
the
complete.
total cost, but it's in the close to $500 million range.
Okay.
When all phases have been completed.
Okay, good. The only reason I bring that up is I know we sit here and look at projects being done and we see a bridge that needs to be repaired and replaced in our respective districts, but what we're doing right here, I think, is in the heart of the state of Georgia. And it's something that is most vital to transportation and to what we have. So I hope that once we get into the move of completing this, and I'm not speaking for anybody else on this board, but I personally think we ought to do everything we can to set our sail and make it be known what DOT has done down there.
Agreed.
Mr. Floyd.
I'd just like to say thank you for this project. This is something that's been needed in Macon and Bibb County. It's a growing part of South Georgia, and we appreciate all that you've done to help us move this project forward.
Sorry.
Thank you, Albert. Now we'll ask, go ahead. There's someone on the phone.
Yeah, I'd just like to say from Tim Golden, the 8th Congressional District, Macon project, thank you very much. Appreciate the hard work of the Commissioner and the whole GDOT team. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, for those remarks. That's very well spoken for the great work that's going on in Middle Georgia. Any other questions? Okay. We want to go ahead and get a motion on that, Albert. Kenneth, go ahead and give you the TIA projects.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members of the board. The TIA office is letting 16 projects. We are combining these 16 resurfacing style projects into one contract. We have projects in Candler County, Evans County, and Tattnall County, all located in Congressional District 12. This is the second set, and a good example of those is this is the 11 streets that we're resurfacing in the city of Claxton in this package. It's a big impact to the 3 local communities that we're doing resurfacing in. The total of these 16 projects consist of about 3.3 miles of asphalt patching, leveling, and resurfacing on streets in Pulaski, Claxton, Daisy, Collins, and it represents a little over $500,000 in TIA investment in the heart of Georgia region. All right, with that, I'll turn it back over to Albert.
All right, so we have 45 projects proposed for the January 2021 letting. This chart shows the distribution by improvement types. The estimate of these projects in the January 2021 letting is approximately $320 million. This chart shows the dollar amount distribution by improvement type. I now ask for your consideration for approval of the proposed projects presented for the January 2021 letting.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Albert.
Thank you.
For that great report. And Kenneth, thank you for your report. And now I'll ask the Commissioner to come forward to give his report. Mr. Russell McMurray.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Good morning.
It is December, hard to believe. It's great to be with you this morning. I'd like to start, as we always do, with our state fund collections for the month of November 2020. Totaled $173.11 million, $160.1 million in excise, 12.99, we might as well say 13 million for fees. That brings our fiscal year-to-date collections to $837.4 million. And if you break that down, $777 million roughly in excise and about $61 million in fees. So to give you some comparison, year-to-date, we're about $22 million less than last year. But let me give you some encouraging news. November 2020 excise collections compared to November of 2019 were up 1.6%. So that means there was more consumption in this November as compared to last November. That's very encouraging. Year-to-date excise collections are down 0.1%, so a percent down year-to-date. So that is an encouraging trend. As we look at hotel fees, certainly hotel and travel have been very affected by COVID. November, we were 25% below where we were in November of 2019, which actually is better than we had forecast or projected. So only 25% off as compared to last year. You might think it should have only been 25%, but it's only 25% off. Year-to-date, hotel is down right at 29.7, roughly 30%, as compared to same year-to-date calculation. So seeing some positive trends, and I'll talk a little bit more about traffic trends in a moment. Also, as it relates to funding, I wanted to update you on Garvey bond update. As you may recall, back in 2016, you as the State Transportation Board, along with the Georgia Road and Tollway Authority and the Georgia State Finance and Investment Commission, authorized the issuance up to $675 million in something called Guaranteed Anticipated Revenue Vehicle Bonds, which we call GARVE, to be utilized for advanced right-of-way acquisition and to support the MMIP project of the State Route 400 Express Lane project. Back in 2017, we sold $75 million to start that early and advanced right-of-way acquisition along 400, and we have done so. And exactly a year ago at the board meeting, you gave us the opportunity to expand the utilization of the Garvey bonds to be included to the top end express lane project on 285, also to the East Wall Express Lane project on 285, and also to the two interchange projects at I-20 and 285 on the east side and on the west side. So you gave us that. Also, Federal Highway Administration had to concur in that, and they did last year. So now we are slated to close on the remaining $600 million of Garvey bonds on December 22nd to finance, again, those projects that I just talked about for right-of-way and construction, to continue to advance those projects. So I'm extremely excited to tell you that yesterday those bonds were priced, and the SERTA board approved the sale and pricing yesterday, and we really got tremendous news from the market yesterday. In fact, the aggregate rate for those bonds, the winning bonds were 1.0595%. So as the governor said, man, he wished he could refinance his house at that. So, and I think we all agree. there was tremendous interest in the bond market as well, and these were hugely subscribed, and in part due to the debt management plan of the department and the sound fiscal responsibility we have here at the department of how we manage our portfolio and debt. And so all those were extremely high rated, all A+ or greater by each of the rating agency. So really great news, and I want to commend Angela and our team here, a whole team of people that worked with the State Road and Tollway Authority and also the Georgia State Finance and Investment Commission of preparing presentations to Moody's, Fitch, and S&P to, again, state our financial case to them that gave us great ratings that yielded these great results in the bond market. So really excited about that. On other funding news, Josh Waller later in the presentation will give you some federal funding update news, and I'll give you a little teaser. It's not as good as that. It's hard to beat 1.0595%. So anyway, he'll provide you some more information. Let me move into employment figures now. As of end of November, 3,679 full-time employees. We still have about 51 that are in our maintenance area that are considered temporary. We hired 9 employees last month, promoted 24 employees, and had 44 separations. I will tell you that we, HR and all the hiring managers are actively trying to fill lots of positions. We have a lot of positions that have been approved to be filled, and we're working through that. And believe me, they're doing a great job in a virtual world of trying to do interviews and schedule and do things in a very different way to continue that pursuit of filling jobs here at the department. Our procurement report for professional services last month were 129 contracts executed, valued at right at $49 million for engineering, design, right-of-way, things like that, to advance projects to construction. That brings our year-to-date total, fiscal year-to-date total, to 762 contracts valued at $331 million. So that is a lot of work, folks, and we're only halfway through the year. So a lot of work being done to advance projects. So let me move in now to highlight a few projects. Again, in view of time, we're trying to keep this short. So these are just a small set of projects that were open to traffic since we were together last time. We'll start in Congressional District 9 up in Hall County, and that's GDOT District 1, for 1.5 miles of construction of 2 bridges and approaches on US 129 over the Chattahoochee River and East Fork Little River. But when I tell you that they're over the Chattahoochee River and East Fork Little River, that's Lake Lanier, actually. So these are 2 bridges over Lake Lanier. They replaced bridges that were built in 1957 when the lake was filled up. They had the advantage of building the bridges on basically over a river at that time and not over a lake. E.R. Snell Contractor was the contractor that did this work. They opened those bridges to traffic on November 19th. Represents a $44.2 million investment. And so glad to have those bridges, complicated bridges to build as well over the lake. Also in Congressional District 9 in Madison County, which is still GDOT District 1, a bridge replacement project on Wildcat Bridge Road over Mason Mills Creek. E.R. Snell was the contractor on that. Replaced a bridge that was originally built in 1966. Represented a $2.8 million investment. And it actually opened to traffic in October, but finished up in November. Moving in Congressional District 11 up in Bartow County, GDOT District 6. I think Mr. Lewis is very familiar with this project, the US 41 State Route 3 at US 411 interchange reconstruction. Amen. It also included bridges over 411 and 61, reconstructing bridges over the CSX Railroad, and widening reconstruction of the bridge over Pettit Creek. C.W. Matthews contractor was the contractor on this project. It was open to traffic in the early part of November. It represents a $60.3 million investment. It certainly has made a difference in traffic flow in that area. So I'm glad to have that one done.
Thank you.
It's another one of those sort of like Macon's been around for a while, so making great progress. Staying in GDOT District or Congressional District 11, on down in Cobb County, GDOT District 7. This is one that I just wanted to highlight because of the size and nature of this, and it's actually just a bridge rehabilitation of State Route 5 connector over I-75, but it is a big bridge. Kiewit Infrastructure South was the contractor. Got it all finished up at the end of last month, represented $4.6 million investment. Again, putting dollars into maintenance and capital maintenance preservation that gives longevity to those bridges. So again, a big complex project to be a bridge maintenance project. Moving in Congressional District 12 into Evans County, GDOT District 5. A little over a 1/10 of a mile of construction of a bridge and approaches on State Route 169 over Bull Creek. Contractor was Gregory Bridge Company. Finished up in the early part of November, represent a $2.5 million investment. I think you can see the wonderful outcome we're having of these bridges that Albert just talks about advertising, and we're getting them built as well, which makes a real big difference. So let me move now to give you some traffic information, because I know it's the holiday.
Mr. Brown, Commissioner, excuse me, Mr. Brown, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
On the bridges, what's the time of length of time that they can be built and not be torn down versus what they used to be? You have some that have been 1967. Is the lifespan longer now?
Yeah, we are designing for longer lifespans, and what really the issue is two issues. One is deterioration and just deterioration of bridges, and they lose structural strength due to deterioration. But a lot of the bridges that were built in the 50s and 60s were built for the vehicles that were in play at that time.
Mm-hmm.
If you think back to what a tractor trailer looked like in the 50s, it's much different and carried a lot less weight than they do today.
Mm-hmm.
So part of its condition, part of it was they were never built to hold the weights that they have to hold today.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the two differences. But yes, we do design for what we feel is a much longer lifespan, and the technical part has been a lot of changes in the engineering as well since, the 40s and 50s to today. So we do try to get a lot longer life out of them.
Okay, thank you.
So as I said, it's holiday season, and I know you probably will have some kind of virtual holiday party, and I know everybody's going to ask you about traffic. So I figured I'd arm you with some data. And if you want these charts, I'll give you some copies, and you can share those with your family and friends. I'm just kidding. Y'all. I can't see if you're smiling behind your mask. All right, so traffic volumes, most up to date. This first one is overall traffic information of everything in the state from our traffic count stations. But I will tell you, this is heavily influenced by Metro Atlanta data, because we have more traffic counts data here in Metro Atlanta. There's probably somewhere to probably 60-70% weighted on urban area. The gold line are state routes. The gray line are interstates. And if you sort of look at those lines and squint a little bit, you can see that we're still hovering the gray lines up above normal. The bold line at 0 means the same traffic as it was a year ago at the same time. So you can see we've ticked up above right recently, but hovering somewhere between normal and down 10% on interstates. You can see the gold as state routes, somewhere, up and down from 5 to 10, and you can see there's some spikes, and some of that's holidays. If you look at some of those spikes, like at EKG, that's usually in and around holiday travel and weekends. So let's take the next one, though, is a little more granular. It tells a little better story about what's going on, and this is everything outside of metro areas. The dark blue line is state routes. So you can see that the EKG, if you will, is above the bold dark line at 0%, meaning more traffic than last year. The light blue are interstates, and you can see that we've had several spikes on interstates, and it's just sort of up and down, but pretty close to normal. If you average all that out, it's not much below normal. But the other part about interstates, if you just looked at trucks, and I don't have the slide, but if you just look at trucks on the interstates, they're higher than they were last year. In fact, they're at an all-time high, which means there's a lot of freight being moved, because we've gone a lot from sort of a service kind of area that we used to go to concerts and restaurants and out and about, and we spent dollars on services. Now it's really changed into consumer. Everything's arriving on your doorstep. So we're seeing that in freight numbers, so very interesting to see. And the next slide is...
Excuse me, Commissioner, Mr. Floyd, I'd like to...
Commissioner, I agree with you 100% on the truck traffic on Interstate 75. And it's getting to be a problem with trucks having a place to stop and get their time in on their downtime. And that's something that's really beginning to get concerned in South Georgia. They're waiting to get down that way. Every rest area and truck stop and all is just about at capacity.
That is a great lead-in to Josh's presentation a little later. So you teed that up very nicely. We'll talk about truck, he'll talk about truck parking in a minute, because you're absolutely right. Okay, this last slide is looking at urban, so, and this is predominantly Metro Atlanta. So, the purple are state routes, and the red is urban interstates. So, as you can tell, they're not quite as good as what we're seeing elsewhere, but and again, this is a lot of data, but it's still trending up and to the right, meaning that the traffic volumes are coming back and back and back. And I was talking to Mr. Lewis a little bit earlier this morning, is we're seeing, again, not the morning rush hour that used to be, but traffic building through the day, and we are now seeing reoccurring congestion in the afternoons. So it's, again, people are not out. It doesn't appear that they're out as early as they used to be, but again, they're getting out and about, and here in Metro Atlanta, that is still trending up. So we're still seeing a trend back toward normal around Metro Atlanta. And so just wanted to provide that with you. I know you'll be the hit of your holiday party, sharing that kind of technical information. And if you want to text me or call me while you're at that, I'll be glad to jump on the call.
Is this come in a Christmas card?
Well, there are sort of pretty Christmassy colors here. Maybe we should do that. All right, let me move forward. Thanks for indulging me with that. Really wanted to make sure you're aware that we are continuing our public information outreaches on projects, and of course a major project, to Mr. Floyd's point, is the traffic and truck volume on I-75. We're doing our public information open house. Is actually open right now for the commercial vehicle lanes that start down in Butts County, Henry County, Lamar, Monroe, Spalding, as you know, as part of the MMIP. But we've continued to advance projects, even though we're doing it virtually, to the public. So this is underway. The web page went live on November 18th, and we'll continue to receive comments through December 15th. So 5 more days, but the web page will remain for the public. So they'll still be able to access the web page and get the information off that. Also, we actually had a live virtual public information open house presentation with question and answers back on December 7th from 5:30 to 7:30. So sort of the traditional, we'll answer your questions live in real time like we do if we were in person. But here's some interesting facts from what we're seeing, and this is really now having the technology really helps us to understand things. This web page, as of a few days ago, had 4,747 views to this web page. We've had the virtual meeting rooms. When you click on this, you can go into 6 different rooms to look at information. So just very much like you would navigate if we were in person, you're able to go look at specific things. We've had 19,000 views in rooms, and the average time of engagement on the web is 2 minutes and 23 seconds. And in the 6 rooms, their average number of rooms viewed are about 4 per user. So out of 6 rooms, people are navigating to at least 4 of them. So, and then when we had our live and in-person virtual meeting, we had 90 citizens come to that or attend that virtually. So that is really good turnout. I mean, that's a better turnout than we would had if we had this at multiple locations upon the corridor, I would suggest. So very good way to continue to reach people. If you would take a picture of that, please go and check out the meeting rooms, but please check out the simulation, the video simulation, where you can drive from basically the 475, 75 interchange all the way up into South Henry County. That simulation will tell you everything you sort of need to know about what commercial vehicle lanes look like. And if you have any problem navigating that, or Kristen, we can send that out. We'll send that link out so you can just click and get right to that. It's fascinating and really gives you a good visual of what this project will look like. So speaking of interstate traffic, this one is the most serious thing I will talk about today. Well, one of the most serious things I'll talk about today is our continued effort to combat the fight against human trafficking. As I've mentioned before, we are aligned with the state of Georgia in the battle against the crime of human trafficking. Our efforts to combat human trafficking in Georgia follow the lead of Governor Kemp and First Lady Marty Kemp, where the GRACE Commission was established, and GRACE stands for Georgians for Refuge, Action, Compassion, and Education. The commission is comprised of public officials, law enforcement, for nonprofits and for-profits, faith-based institutions, and a lot of subject matter experts on this very tough topic. Earlier this year, First Lady Kemp and the Grace Commission, along with the Department of Administrative Services, announced the implementation of human trafficking awareness training for state employees. And we had our employees that are most probable and likely to interface or have the ability to see something, to say something, was mandatory training. But not only that, we had 800 other GDOT employees that were not mandatory take this training. And so we're extremely proud of our employees for wanting to have the awareness to be able to help in this effort. So some efforts that GDOT has taken specifically. We've basically placed adhesive stickers in all the restrooms, in the welcome centers and visitor centers throughout the state that prominently displays the National Human Trafficking toll-free hotline. If you think about it, that's about the only time sometimes people are left alone is when they go to the bathroom. And so having that information there hopefully can have people reach out, or if they see something suspicious, have a number to call. Also, I'm very proud of this, is our team worked to develop information cards that are distributed by our hero operators and our champs. Believe me, our hero operators see a lot of things. So they're able to, again, maybe get that card to people in need and they have a card they already give out every time they help somebody. So this is a way to, again, to try to get information in the hands that need it. So extremely proud of this effort. It's an effort that will continue, we'll keep pace on and continue to support the Grace Commission in this most important effort. So continuing on our focus on safety, obviously one of the things I talked about last month was the lack of seatbelt use and fatalities. 56% of fatalities are unbelted, or at the time of the crash, they couldn't determine if they were wearing seatbelts. As you know, we have diligently focused on Drive Alert, Arrive Alive, and that has been really an external effort for many years now that you're all familiar with. But critically important is focusing on our employees and their safety. And I can tell you we are focused there. So earlier this year, we launched an internal education called 2 Seconds to Click. And the campaign engages our employees by emphasizing the benefits of wearing seatbelts, of course, when operating a vehicle, whether they're GDOT owned or we lease them, or in our personal vehicles as well. You know, the campaign is just really, again, to seek awareness and visibility of seatbelt use. And they do that by using a visible orange seatbelt cover. As you can see in this picture here, that's most cars don't have orange seatbelts. So these are seatbelt covers. This came through the partnership of the Network of Employers of Traffic Safety, who got a grant through the National Highway Safety Administration for this purpose, for 2 seconds to click. So I'm very excited that our state safety manager, Sharon Morales, and her team, working with the districts and working out with everybody in Office of Equipment Management, has put this focus on our own seatbelt usage. So, you know, we don't need to neglect the focus on safety when it comes to our folks as well. So I'm appreciative for what they've done. Also, last month, you guys gave us a little bit of a charge as we talked about the statistics we were seeing, regrettably, on Georgia roadways with less traffic earlier in this year. Fatality numbers are basically the same as they were last year, or if not, maybe higher. Depends on the day as you compare. And also this week, I might add that the Strategic Highway Safety Plan annual meeting was held virtually. Again, the focus on safety. But we heard you last month about continuing to work partnerships and getting the message out. And so communications partnered with the Governor's Office of Highway Safety and also the Georgia State Patrol to have a concerted effort working with the news media on this effort. They compile basically toolkit and statistics on our webpage, and then work with TV stations and publications across the state to try to again get the message out. And they did. Multiple outlets reported the trend, including several TV outlets here in Atlanta and across the state. And this effort also was combined with the messaging for the National Traffic Incident Response Awareness Week that was last month as well. So good timing. Again, appreciate your support and your encouragement that, again, you can see some of the information that we put out, again, getting the word out to continue to try to take this trend of fatality crashes in the opposite direction than it's going now. Speaking of GDOT employees, just wanted to update you that we're very proud to support the Governor and First Lady Kemp's Secret Santa program, who is hosted by the Georgia Department of Family and Children Services for providing presents for foster kids. Last Thursday, you can see HR Director Monica Ivy there in the pictures in the red. I called her Mrs. Claus. And so Mrs. Claus had some helpers, Brian Robertson of HR and David Brock and Harold Tucker, all helped deliver over 100 toys, electronics, gifts, bicycles, and the like, provided from GDOT employees to cover 35 foster kids. And so, again, I just want to commend the generosity of our staff, our leadership team, divisions, districts, and offices here at One Georgia Center for their generosity in making 35 foster kids' Christmas and holidays much more bright and merry. Lastly, I usually give you sort of a year-end review recap, and this year, has been like none other. So I thought we would do the 12 Days of Christmas sing-along. So if you're ready, we'll get underway. No, I'm just kidding. We are going to take the 12 Days of Christmas song, as you may remember, and take it as a countdown from 12 to 1. So if you're remembering, what was the 12? 12 drummers drumming. You have to think about it. It's hard to do it in reverse. You always have to work your way up and back down. 12 drummers drumming. Well, the drum beat has gone on for all of you for 12 board meetings this year in a very different way, right? Some completely virtual, some hybrid, in person. We remember that we were all in person fully at the beginning of this year. So congratulations to you for keeping the pace of 12 board meetings. 11 were 11 pipers piping. Okay, remember that? Well, 11 pipers have been piping concrete and asphalt to build 11 miles of I-85 widening. That was completed in June. That was our first MMIP project out the door, and it's the first one completed. So it's actually 10 and a half miles, but we rounded up to 11 to make the song work, okay? As a reminder, we're already under construction on phase 2. I think Mr. Boswell witnessed that yesterday personally in his driving around, and stay tuned. There may be a Christmas surprise on that corridor later in the year for another phase. 10 Lords of Leaping. Well, how about 10 amazing women of GDOT? In February, GDOT's board members and employees were named by Engineering Georgia magazine as most influential women. Yep. That was Emily Dunn, Stacy Key, Dana Lemon, Ann Purcell, along with Meg Perkle, Angela Whitworth, Carol Comer, Marlo Clowers, Haral Patel, Natalie Dell. We're recognizing. Actually, that list is way too short. We have a lot of amazing women working here. So that was our 10 amazing women. 9 ladies dancing. Probably we're a little concerned where I go with this one. How about 9 virtual DBE events? As we've talked about that, we've had 9 outreach events that reached over 460 attendees. And just yesterday, we had our annual DBE and Small Business Forum virtually, the 3rd annual. And I was honored to be able to participate in that and said that, this is year 3, but we're going to keep it going. And so had over 350 people registered yesterday for that as well. So another great day. Next is 8 Maids a-Milkin'. Well, 8 sort of rhymes with freight, right? You have to work with me here. So you'll hear from Josh Waller in a little bit about the Freight and Logistics Commission that has finished up its 2 years of work. And also in the freight arena, let's not forget the $22 million bill grant we have received from USDOT for the widening of State Route 96, which will help move freight and commerce from Savannah up into middle Georgia in that nice east-west connector. 7 swans of swimming? Well, how about 7 public meetings? You just heard about the I-75 meeting, but we've had 7 that all for the MMIP projects. So again, mostly virtual. A few of those were in person early in the year, but most all those have been virtual and have reached thousands and thousands of people through the virtual format. 6 geese laying. How about 6 focus areas for the I-85 corridor study in Gwinnett County? Those 6 areas are improving freight movement, supporting local communities, considering multi-modes of transportation, improved traveler safety, improving vehicle travel, and supporting Georgia's economy. How about that? Wasn't that slick? So that's, again, a great partnership with Gwinnett County, who is studying 85, basically from 285 all the way up to 985, and a great planning effort led by Janine and her team, along with Gwinnett County. 5 gold rings. Y'all don't want to say 5 gold? You just want to say that, right? 5 gold rings? How about 5 lanes of asphalt? Sometimes we call asphalt black gold, but anyway. How about the 5 lanes that were repaired by District 1 and District 7 following a tragic tractor-trailer crash and fire on a weekend on I-85, right near Jimmy Carter Boulevard, right in the heart of Mr. Bowen's district, that our teams responded with our traffic management staff, our heroes, law enforcement, our bridge crews, our paving crews got out there and made repairs and had that thing done by evening, repairing 5 lanes of asphalt. So a great job again for them coming to the rescue. Calling 4, this one I really hate to talk about. How about 4 hurricanes and tropical storms that affected Georgia? And again, Sally was September 21st, Delta October 11, Zeta October 29th, and Eta November 13th. That all had impacts on Georgia, and again, our districts responded to every one of those in one manner or another to get the roads back open. So great job to all of them for 4 calling birds and 4 hurricanes and tropical storms. I'm just glad we're Louisiana. That might have been 12. So, all right. 3 French hens. How about us being the 3-time winner of the People's Choice Award for the AASHTO? Right. That's a big deal. I have made no friends at AASHTO because we've won 3 in a row. Again, we won for Northwest Corridor in 2019. Back in 2018, we won for Path 400, and we just won the Columbus Riverwalk last month, presented that check to Rick and the great folks in Columbus. 2 turtle doves. How about 2 turtle dove board members getting reelected? Tim Golden and Rudy Bowen this year. So that's our 2 turtle doves. And lastly, it's the partridge in the pear tree, but how about a pandemic on Peachtree? Here we are on Peachtree Street, or right off of Peachtree Street. And I can't say enough of how this year has been and commend our team for continuing to work hard during a pandemic all across Georgia, not just Peachtree Street, but all across Georgia, to continue to advance transportation projects and programs and focus on safety and operations during a pandemic. So I want to thank Kyle Moat and Scott Higley for putting that together. If you think I have that creativity, you're wrong. They did a great job of highlighting the year in review and putting a nice holiday spin on it. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen aboard, that concludes my report. I wish you all very happy holidays. Today is the first day of Hanukkah, and a Merry Christmas. So I wish you all the very best, and we're looking very forward to 2021.
Is any questions from the commissioner at this time? Any comments they'd like to make? Well, I'd like to make one, Commissioner. Thank you for the great work you've done this year, and your team and the department, all the departments, and it means a lot to this board and other citizens of this state, and the great comments that we hear out there about a great job that DOT is doing. And I know under these conditions, you've even done it more outstanding job. And we thank you for the hard work again. And I like your comments here. It just kind of makes it gives us something to smile about and to enjoy the holidays of by how you used, the 12, days of Christmas. So that's a great start. And, again, we thank you for all the employees again and working through this pandemic time. And thank you for the board members and those who come and those who have, doing by phone. We all have supported and just keep things rolling along, and that's wonderful.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like for our chief engineer, Ms. Meg Perkle, to come forward to give us an update on the state rail report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity to present the preliminary results of our state rail plan update. I'm not Carol Comer. I'm a stand-in for her, so I'll do my best. So the state, forgot I had to advance slides. The state rail plan update is a requirement of the Federal Railroad Administration, and it must be updated every 5 years. FRA requires that we assess our freight and passenger rail network, identify system needs and issues, and prepare an investment program detailing short-range and long-range projects, regardless of the project sponsor or fund source. It's a little different from how we do these kind of plans with FHWA. With our highway system, we usually have a list of projects that we know we can reasonably fund within a certain time frame. With FRA, it's more a list of investment needs, regardless of fund source or availability. So in conducting the study, we utilized industry data and stakeholder outreach to define the role of rail in Georgia's transportation network and document trends and needs. Georgia's existing freight rail system comprises of 4,643 track miles. More than 2,000 miles are operated by Norfolk Southern, 1,500 miles are operated by CSX, and the department and 21 other short lines operate over another 1,000 miles. Our passenger rail system is operated by Amtrak and provides daily service from D.C. to New Orleans and New York to Miami, with stops at 5 stations in Toccoa, Gainesville, Atlanta, Jessup, and Savannah. Amtrak operates the service over Class I railroad tracks via shared use agreements with CSX and Norfolk Southern. We also have 5 passenger rail excursion trains, including Americus and Blue Ridge. Of the 50 states, Georgia ranks in the top 10 for the number of freight railroads and rail miles, originated and terminated carloads, and rail employees and wages. Intermodal tonnage terminating in Georgia increased 69% from 2008 to 2017, and intermodal tonnage originating in Georgia increased 86% in that time frame. So our growth in intermodal traffic exceeded the national average, which really remained relatively flat during that same period. So that's a large amount of growth. And the growth of intermodal trade at the Port of Savannah has been a major factor in the state's increase in intermodal traffic. A steering committee was established to provide high-level direction throughout the course of the study. It contained a cross-section of state and national stakeholders to include our federal partners at FRA, FTA, and FHWA, also Amtrak, Georgia Ports Authority, Georgia Railroad Association, Norfolk Southern, CSX, American Shortline and Regional Railroad Association, Department of Economic Development, the Georgia Economic Developers Association, Georgia Municipal Association, ACCG, regional commissions, and MPO representatives. So a very big cross-section. Additionally, regional meetings were held around the state to include a broader audience that included local government and industry representatives, including all of the short line rail operators. We also conducted public surveys and surveys of our rail operators that aided in developing the FRA required investment program. The public survey respondents were primarily interested in passenger rail, and many identified key destinations, including Savannah, Athens, Macon, Charlotte, and Chattanooga. The state rail plan goals were developed by the steering committee. The top goal, as you would expect, is enhancing the safety and security of our rail network. The second most important goal was to support Georgia's competitiveness for economic development opportunities. Other goals included promoting rail as an environmentally sustainable choice, enhancing freight network reliability by maintaining our rail assets, and lastly, to improve and expand passenger rail. There were a number of key issues and themes that emerged from our stakeholder outreach activities. The study identified rail crossing safety and grade separations as issues of concern from our local government stakeholders. A recent rail industry trend known as precision railroad scheduling tends to build longer trains, so we anticipate the issue of blocked crossings will amplify in coming years. And this has also been a topic of discussion with the Freight and Logistics Commission that the Commissioner served on for the last 2 years. Maintaining adequate vertical clearances for our Class 1 railroads is important to allow for double-stacked cars. Since the last rail plan update in 2015, clearance improvement projects have been implemented, and now all Class 1 rail routes have vertical clearances for this. The most critical issue for short-line railroads is upgrading weight capacity to the industry standard of 286,000 pounds capability. Today, on 25% or 220 miles of track within the state of Georgia, they are restricted to less than that weight capacity, which limits their ability to serve certain industries. Our GDOT-owned short lines are 67% compliant with these FRA Class 2 standards for weight-bearing capacity. In summary, the short-range or 5-year identified program needs totaled $217 million and included projects for our GDOT-owned short lines and rail safety crossing improvements. These projects would complete upgrading the remainder of our network to Class 2 standards, routine rail and bridge rehabilitation, additional spurs and industrial access, and improve rail crossing safety. The long-range investment program identifies needs estimated at $1.4 billion during the 15-year period past the 5-year short term to 2040. These projects include additional rehab and reconstruction, as well as capital upgrades to maintain Class 2 standards, bridge upgrades and replacement, as well as 6 large-scale safety crossing projects for grade separations and alternative routes, and additional planning and environmental studies to evaluate passenger rail service from Atlanta to Charlotte, Savannah, and Columbus. Several large projects included in this long-range recommendation were 3 additional inland ports in Gainesville, Middle and South Central Georgia, an industrial spur and grade separation project in Commerce, Georgia on the Norfolk Southern Line, a grade separation project on the CSX line at ABC Avenue in Waycross, a project in the city of Fairburn to reroute traffic to alleviate a blocked crossing, and reactivation of 12 miles of the St. Mary's Railroad to serve the Naval Submarine Base at Kings Bay, and relocation of the Amtrak station in Atlanta. So as a reminder, the rail plan as required by FRA is not a commitment for funding, but rather an identification of needs, and it's done in a manner consistent with all states. It gives FRA an idea of what the real rail needs are for the whole country. As you know, in Georgia, improvement to our short-line railroads are subject to funding through annual legislative appropriations. So the short-range portion of the rail investment program contains priority projects that we anticipate we could be able to fund in the near term if today's funding levels remain consistent throughout the next 5 years with annual legislative appropriations, in addition to FHWA's rail crossing program that we get funds for annually. The long-range portion of the rail investment program contains projects that would require additional funding from other sources, including FRA's grant program, the CRISI grants. There are other grants through US DOT, Build and Infra grants, the Federal State Partnership Grant Program, and other appropriations and economic development grants. The remaining steps to complete the rail plan update include final edits to the technical report and the executive summary and transmittal to the FRA prior to the deadline of January 31st, 2020. The rail plan update will also be used as input to the Office of Planning's update to the state freight plan next year. And they will also use the plan to assess the return on investment for rail infrastructure projects. So I really want to thank our intermodal team, our rail planners, Casey Mertz and Ashley Finch, who did a great job on this plan, along with our consultant partners, WSP. And that will conclude my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions? Go ahead,
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to reiterate what Meg has said about the rail service in Georgia. Cordele, the city, is just in the process of completing a viewing station where all three of these main railroads intersect and change there. The Heart of Georgia, the Norfolk Southern, and the CX all interchange right there in Cordele. And we just got through building a viewing station that people can come and get under a canopy and view the switching of all the trains and all that.
That's cool.
Any other questions? Meg, thank you for that great report on rails. And at this time, I'll ask our Mr. Josh Waller to come forward, our Policy and Director of Government Affairs, and to give an update on the Georgia Freight and Logistics Commission.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity today to present an update on the Georgia Commission on Freight and Logistics, and it dovetails well with the presentation just given by the Chief Engineer, which really underscores just, while we've had this commission for the last 2 years, the work that's been ongoing at GDOT with the intermodal division and obviously the planning division for preparing for freight now and in the future. So there we go. So first, we'll just walk through just a reminder that this commission's been going on for 2 years. You can see the membership there on the screen. It's a combination of legislators chaired by Kevin Tanner and Brandon Beach, private sector, industry folks selected by the House and Senate, local government representatives selected by the House and Senate, and obviously the commissioner and the executive director of the Georgia Ports Authority. So as mentioned, they met in last year and this year. Mission being assessing the state's freight needs with a focus on strategic business plan to improve and invest in statewide freight and logistics infrastructure. They held about 4 meetings last year, and obviously that's pre-COVID. They were able to go throughout the state. A lot of emphasis on the needs to workforce. Truck parking came up, which I'll mention again throughout towards the end of the presentation, but truck parking and also looking at different needs. That was all highlighted last year. The determination was made to kind of take a deeper dive in 2020. So we had a series of 5 meetings this year, all based out of Atlanta. There was a lot of virtual participation. And I'm going to focus really on the kind of the key topics that came up at the last December 2nd meeting, as well as looking at what we anticipate when the report comes out at the end of the month, some of the areas we expect for the commission to highlight. So there was one difference this year from last year. The chairman established a subcommittee chaired by Brad Skinner, and the commissioner was on the subcommittee as well as Matt Markham, who was at the Center for Freight and Logistics, and now he's at GDOT, as well as the executive director of the Ports Authority was involved in the subcommittee. And it was really tasked with looking at the opportunities through public-private partnerships for investing in freight. So some of the key findings of the subcommittee were that both public and privately owned infrastructure require investment. So there's both privately owned rail lines and other assets that are important to see them improved. That comprehensive investment is going to require financing. I mean, if we're going to tackle the needs at the present, it's going to require some sort of financing component, which will then require long-term payment. But to invest what we need now, there just won't be enough public funds to be able to do that at the present. And to accomplish that, the idea would be to look at an existing state authority, CERTA being one, for example, and ensure that it has sufficient authority for a multimodal approach, not just roads and bridges, but all modes. A public authority different than an agency under our Constitution and law, has the ability to engage in those kind of contracts that are necessary for P3. So those were kind of the key points and the key tenets of the report. Another good presentation was a comparator to us of other states, which included California, Colorado, Florida, Texas, North Carolina, Ohio, and Virginia. And it was very interesting to see, slide by slide, some of the comparisons of the assets among the states. And they also looked at they had a graph that normalized annual freight investment. And on the one end, you had Ohio that was looking at about $7 per year annually per person invested in freight per their plan. On the other end, you had Texas at about $52, so $7, $52. And we were nestled there somewhere about, Georgia was about $45 per person per year for freight investment. Now, the one caveat for us was that it included a significant amount of the investments that we're making at the port. So that kind of probably skewed, that probably brought it up compared to sort of the other modal investments. Additionally, Jeannie Miller, our plan director, gave a great presentation on the National Strategic Freight Plan that USDOT has promulgated, highlighting guidance for national freight policy, talking about how the state should go about updating their state freight plans, identifying key data and research needs, as well as the framework for looking at it from a multimodal perspective. Jeannie also gave some great highlights of Georgia and where we stand in freight, and a few things as we just think of the long term, touched on that by 2040, truck volumes will be up by about 32%, rail 25%. One key thing that really stuck out to me that we've heard is we're projecting by 2050 to be the 5th most populous state in the nation. So you bring all that together, it underscores the need for additional investment in freight. Sorry about that. So now as we turn to the what we're expecting to be in the report, one thing we heard a lot about was truck drivers, and the ability to have enough truck drivers, the demands on them with respect to this hours of service. Mr. Floyd, you touched on that, was the issue of trucks having to pull over wherever they are, and that ties back to the federal hours of service requirement, as well as the implementation of the electronic logs, where it is tracked electronically, the hours they're on the road. The impact that had on, when it used to be manual process, there was a little bit, for lack of a better word, of a fudge factor that allowed them to make that last leg to get to a good place to park and rest more safely as opposed to pulling off on the side of the road. With the electronic logs, that flexibility doesn't exist. They need to stop. They have to stop wherever they are. So there was a lot of discussion about, the existing inventory, and I know this board's gotten a presentation on our efforts, and so the department's fully engaged. So you've got the infrastructure piece. You've also got the policy piece at the federal level as they continue to look at federal motor carrier, what options are available to give them greater flexibility and to address this issue. And so we're expecting the commission to not only look at the workforce issues, but truck parking infrastructure as well. What can be done to make that, and there's a lot of issues at play when you look at the metro area. That's where you see a lot of need, but there's considerations of where would you locate the parking, what's the community, the zoning and all that. A lot of factors that have to be addressed, as well as the investment. Sorry about that. Also, the improvement of at-grade rail crossings. We heard a lot of concern about as trains get longer and longer, blocked crossings become more and more of an issue. And so a lot of communities are wanting to, certainly would love to see us help them and assist in building more bridges and eliminate some of these at-grade railroad crossings. So we expect some recommendations around that. Considering the expanding CERT as modal jurisdiction for freight P3s, that would be coming out of that report. And then statutory authorization for public benefit investment in non-state owned freight infrastructure. And that goes toward this idea that there are non-state owned assets that will probably require some level of investment if we are to ensure the system as a whole is functioning and improving the way it needs to. And so some of the challenges that exist under the Constitution is we have to clearly define the parameters where the state can make those types of investments. And then we expect them, because they, throughout the course of this, have been exposed to all sorts of potential revenue options, supplemental revenue options. We would expect some kind of, it'd be hard to speculate at the moment, but we're expecting some sort of recommendation around that. With that, that kind of concludes my presentation on the Georgia Commission on Freight and Logistics, and I just would just pause there to see if there are any questions related to that.
Is there any questions from Mr. Waller? If not, Mr. Waller, we'll go into the legislative agenda for the update, coming up on the update of the legislative session.
So the 2021 proposed legislative agenda items. First, right-of-way acquisition update, and I just want to clarify, this is about acquiring right-of-way, not use of right-of-way. This is building on some of the updates we've done in the past, just to make clear when certain documents have to be turned in and what information has to be provided in that process, just clearing that up in state law. We've had this one before, but didn't advance it this most recent year. The board was supportive last year with just making clear in the state's open record law that personal data remains private as we look to the future, and the amounts of data that will be collected through transportation systems want to ensure that there's never any opportunity for someone to use the law to try and get personal data. This was mentioned before to the board, when that's basically had for comprehensive routine maintenance services, whether it's a contract crew or a comprehensive maintenance agreement, updating our procurement law to allow us, similar on the design build side, similar to design build best value, allow us to have best value routine maintenance services. That would just include within, you'd have the price as well as a percentage that's dealing with performance. Routine maintenance bidding, updating that. This goes to the ITBs that are coming out of the districts, those routine maintenance contract work that they're doing, giving us some flexibility to waive the requirement for a bid bond. The aim of that being that there are some jobs that the risk is very low if there's no bid bond, but it could make a huge difference with some small businesses that choose not to respond either at all or to a number of the proposals because of the cost associated with the bid bond. And then airport licensing and safety enforcement, that's just really updating our law when it comes to licensing and unlicensed airports to ensure that we've got sufficient remedies in place should someone become unlicensed. And then just our standard sort of Title 40 update. And with that, before I go to the next slide, I guess if there are any questions on on this, also we would, as board policy, would need a motion to approve or modify.
Any questions? If not, we'll hear a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and board. Next, the federal update, as the commissioner teed up, he got to talk about the excellent, great, exciting news about the Garvey bonds, and this is a little bit less so. And you'll notice this slide is simple because the risk is that if we had fully populated this slide when y'all had to get this for your board mail out, it could very easily have been turned upside down by this morning. So federal fiscal year 21 appropriation. So the last conversation we had was they were under a continuing resolution that expires this Friday. What passed yesterday in the U.S. House was an extension of 1 week, so that we'll move that to the 18th. So the cliff goes out a little bit further. Delman Lee's got a little bit more driving room before they get there. We anticipate that, well, one prevailing theory is that they will merge doing a full fiscal year's appropriations with some sort of COVID relief. So we'll sort of see where that goes. But in terms of the transportation component, so obviously we need the full fiscal year money to ensure that we're able to continue to cash flow and keep our lettings on the trajectory they need to be on. With respect to COVID, there is some talk about a package of $49.50 billion for transportation within the greater package, ranging from, they're talking about a $500 billion plan to a $1 trillion plan. But the $50 billion that would be in there is going to be supporting airports, buses, transit, those modes of transportation that are highly dependent upon user fee revenue for operations, and they've got that baseline amount that they have to operate. So that's what we're kind of expecting to come out in December if there is additional funding for transportation. Now, as we look to 2021, there's talk of additional funding, other packages, and there has been, a standing effort by the state DOTs and AASHTO to encourage the Congress to look at providing supplemental support for other modes, given just the effect of the pandemic. So with that, currently the U.S. DOT transition team, as U.S. DOT makes that preparation for a transition. So I'll close out with that slide and see if there are any questions.
Is there any questions for Mr. Waller? If not, Mr. Waller, thank you for these reports.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Troy Byers to come forward as the Power State Right-of-Way Administrator for retirement resolution, if I may, please. That's great.
Take your mask off, Rudy, for the picture.
All right. Well, this morning gives me great pleasure to read this resolution for Mr. Byers. He was our right-of-way administrator, and Troy is also a neighbor of mine. We live in the same area, and Troy Byers is a native of Georgia, from Marietta, Georgia, and he's a graduate from University of Georgia, which is very interesting. Very great. He has been with the GDOT for 30 years. Starting out in District 1, Troy received 6 promotions during the time with GDOT, including his last being the State Right-of-Way Administrator. He's worked on many high-profile projects. The Northwest Corridor was a great one, the ports down in Savannah, and the expansion projects of the MMIP. So he's done a great job for this department. He's been very dedicated employee for GDOT over the years, and he's certainly made a difference in a lot of the right-of-way acquisitions and always doing the right thing. I can tell you, I worked with him, and he always did the right thing, and I thank Troy for the great job and his attitude in going about over the years. This time, I would like to read this resolution, if I may. Whereas Troy Byers, a native of Georgia, born in Marietta, is a graduate of the University of Georgia, where he earned a bachelor's degree in business administration. Troy also obtained a Georgia real estate license, Georgia Certified General Real Property Appraiser license. He began his career with the Georgia Department of Transportation in 1990 in Gainesville District Right-of-Way Office as District Right-of-Way Specialist. He also served in District 7 in Chamblee and the General Office of Right-of-Way in Atlanta during his right-of-way tenure. Troy received 8 promotions, whereas Troy's responsibilities to the department include assuring the right-of-way acquisitions for the state transportation projects were on scope and on schedule and on budget. He also the overseer of training provided to the department's right-of-way employees and consultants, as well as local governments, including their right-of-way employees and consultants, in addition responsible for ensuring compliance with all state and federal laws, policies, procedures, and ensured that right-of-way policies and procedures were revised as necessary to improve acquisition efficiency, performance, and quality. Whereas Troy is a known industry leader who served on various committee and subcommittees in national and regional organizations, including American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, and Georgia Partners for Transportation Quality. While serving with GPTQ, Troy helped establish the right-of-way subcommittee, of which he later served as co-chair. Whereas Troy worked on hundreds of right-of-way projects throughout the state of Georgia, including the high-profile Northwest Corridor Project, Savannah Harbor Expansion Project, and multiple major mobility investment program projects. Whereas, in addition to dedicating 30 years of service to Georgia Department of Transportation, Troy also dedicated that time in service to hundreds of property owners, tenants, and their representatives across the state of Georgia to assure they were treated with fairness. Georgia Department of Transportation has greatly benefited from his leadership and expertise, which earned him the Commissioner's Award for Excellence in Performance. Therefore, be it resolved that the State Transportation Board, Troy Bowers, for his exemplary contribution, his loyal service, for his leadership, and unwavering commitment to the citizens of Georgia and the Georgia Department of Transportation. A copy of this resolution shall spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and suitable copy be presented to Troy Bowers in honor of recognition of his commitment, service, and substantive contributions to the Georgia Department of Transportation and of the state of Georgia. And I'd like to present this in the form of a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Troy, congratulations on this resolution, our Transportation Board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Isn't it amazing how quickly 30 years can go by? Unbelievable. Yes, it's true. I started November of 1990. Mr. McMurray was in District 1. I've had the opportunity, I won't keep you all long. I know it's getting late in the day, and I don't like to be the center of attention, so I just want to quickly tell the board, the commissioner, the wonderful senior leadership team, all the many coworkers, I couldn't have laid out and written out my path in my career with GDOT any better than it turned out. I've had the opportunity over 30 years to have wonderful mentors. And the reason I'm standing here before you today is because of those mentors. I would have never made it 30 years. This Marietta, Blue Ridge country boy that came down, went to Athens and became a college student and then ended up at GDOT, there's just no way that I feel like I would have made it this far without the wonderful people that have been mentors over this 30-year career. And I've worked with you individually, board members. Y'all have been great, wonderful mentors to me, the commissioner, especially the last 10 years of my career. I can honestly say I've had the best mentors I could have possibly asked for. And I'll always be grateful and always feel indebted to have worked for one of the most awesome state of Georgia agencies I could have possibly asked to work for. So I want to applaud you. I know it's supposed to be about me, but I really feel like it's about the mentors that have been in my life the past 30 years and all these wonderful people that have influenced me with the DOT. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Troy, and congratulations. And again, thank you for your dedicated service to our department. At this time, is there any new business? We're going to meet next door, meeting with Gresham Smith. After some of the board members can meet after the meeting, right next door in the boardroom. I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas. I hope you're safe. I hope that, you all have a wonderful family gatherings and enjoy the holidays and be safe, and hope to see you in 2021, and everybody be safe. Thank you.